So I've been working recently with a new student, and we've gotten him to a point where he can vocalize up to the A4s or the C5s pretty consistently. So this tells me he has a pretty good understanding of the stretch of the vocal folds. However, one of the challenges we've only recently worked through is, yes, he can kind of go up and down his range fairly easily, but there always seems to be this extra feeling of squeeze, and sometimes it sounds like that as well. And maybe for some of you listening to this podcast, you might have noticed this as well. You can hit the notes, you can kind of get there, but it doesn't feel exactly as easy or as right as it should be. So today, let's talk about why the voice sounds or feels a bit squeezy. Let's talk about what's happening behind the scenes. And I'll also share with you a very practical exercise once again to help you resolve this. So make sure to stay to the end. Now, real quick, for those of you who don't know me, my name is Ivan. I'm a voice teacher who works with students from all around the world over Zoom. And really on this podcast, my goal is to make learning how to sing as simple and as easy as possible. So if that is up your lane, consider subscribing wherever you're joining me from. If you want to improve your voice faster and with less of the headaches, I want to work with you. Links are down in the description how you can get in contact. If you want to inspire our next episode, drop down in the comments below what you want me to talk about next. Anyway, let's dive in. Now, of course, probably the most common feedback is just relax your voice, just relax your throat. I think that can be helpful, but I think there's also more to it. Let's talk about this. One lesson that's really helped me help my students with this kind of feeling or this kind of sound of squeeze is understanding that there needs to always be this kind of constant balance between airflow and a closure or connection of the vocal folds, how much they come together. Generally, the more connection you add, the more kind of volume you add, the more air you'll need to blow. Ma 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 ma, ma 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 ma, ma 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 ma, ma 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 ma. So at every kind of volume or connection, as I increase it, I kind of blow a bit more air to match that volume. Now, how does this relate to that kind of squeezy sound that we're talking about at the beginning? Now, from experience, that kind of squeezy sound or quality is when I don't blow enough air to the connection that I need, right? Maybe I'm kind of squeezing at this level and I'm blowing in this amount of air. Now, this makes fixing it quite simple because there's two things that we can do. We can either bring down the connection or bring down the volume to kind of match the airflow, or we can bring the airflow to match the connection. So we'll blow a bit more air, or, some kind of mixture of them both. But all of this is to get a nice balance between that airflow and that closure. And so then this brings us to the exercise. Say you've got the sound and it kind of sounds like ma, 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 more on that kind of squeezy kind of quality. It's a bit tighter than what I'd like it to be. Try one of those two strategies. The first strategy here is let's see if we can kind of blow more air against the voice without it getting louder. Because if the voice is getting louder, we're basically kind of connecting a bit harder at the same time. So let's try this, right? If I go ma, ma, ma. So it's a bit tight, it's a bit kind of squeezy, that kind of quality. So if I go and try to add a bit more air, and I might even just get that pure feeling of just blowing air to kind of show me what I'm aiming for. I do this, right? Ma, 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 ma. Now notice the sound doesn't necessarily go breathier. It kind of just gets a bit more smoother and it doesn't have as much of that kind of pressure built up. This is a sign that the voice is being rebalanced a bit nicer. Now you can also try this second strategy of just pulling back the connection, pulling back the volume, but you keep that same sense of airflow, keep that same sense of just giving the voice air. Now personally, this one is a bit trickier for me, but the theory should still hold up. Give it a try. It might actually feel easier for you. Ma, 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 ma. Give these two kind of broad strategies a go. So you either try to blow a bit more air, right, without getting any louder, or you actually go a bit softer and you try to keep that same feeling of blowing air. And when you can find this more balanced spot of closure to airflow, then just bring it to some scales and bring it to a song. Ma 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 instead of ma 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 ma. See if you can kind of bring it to the scales and train in this new feeling of the voice. Anyway, that is all. If you found this episode useful, please share the word or leave a 5-star if you're listening from the podcast. It really, really means the world to me. If you're struggling with a voice and you want to improve it faster with less headache, I want to work with you. Links down in the description below. Apart from that, my name is Ivan. I'm your voice teacher. I'll see you next week. Take care.